So after a very long trip to San Francisco, I'd like to talk about my impressions of the Resident Evil 7 Lantern demo, my impressions of PlayStation VR, and then towards the end I'll kind of talk a little bit about the trip overall. But without any further delays, let's get right into it. So I think I should start off with talking about the demo itself, just talking about the things that I noticed while playing the demo, talking about the things that I liked and disliked about the demo, and then just kind of moving on from there. So the first thing that I want to talk about as far as positive aspects of the Resident Evil 7 Lantern demo are concerned is the VR aspect of the game. When using the VR, as far as the visuals are concerned, it looks good. There are actually some items in that demo that actually came off as something that I would personally consider photorealistic. So in my opinion, the Resident Evil engine in VR just looks really good. There's a lot of textures that kind of come off as photorealistic, or items in game that look like they can pass off as something that I would consider photorealistic. I will also say that the Resident Evil engine does look pretty nice when looking at just other things besides just random items and textures. Just overall in VR, the game looks really nice. It has a feel to it in VR that you can't really get when just looking at it on a monitor or TV screen. So I think that VR, at least in this aspect, has something over just playing on a monitor or on a TV screen that you can't really experience unless if you do play the game on VR. So that is something that I think, from a visual standpoint at least, Resident Evil 7 has going for it in a positive aspect. The next positive aspect that I want to talk about from my playthrough of the demo is the sound design. So sound design for me was overall pretty good. I really liked the fact that it was very crisp and clear sounding. One other thing that I noticed, which was another good attention to detail, was that when Margaret Baker was in another room, you can tell that she was in another room depending on how far or how close she was to that room. So it was very good overall in my opinion. And actually what was funny was that she had said something in one of those rooms and I got a little bit jumpy because I couldn't really tell what she had said, but just because of the distance that she was at, I could tell that she was very close. So it was kind of an unexpected thing for me during my playthrough. The attention to detail also applies to your footsteps too. Like when you're walking around in the environment, you can kind of hear like the creaking of the floorboards, like some of the background noise, which is a little bit more subtle, and various things like that. Like even opening up doors was very on point when it came to the sound design. So overall, I would say that I like the sound design of the Resident Evil 7 Lantern demo. And the last positive aspect that I want to talk about is the environment and atmosphere of the demo overall. The environment and atmosphere weren't bad, but they weren't great either. I did like the fact that you did have a sense of like horror feel to it whenever you were walking around in the rooms and just kind of looking at all the grotesque looking stuff within the rooms that you were traversing through. But that said, I wouldn't say it's anything like spectacular or anything, but I did like it for the most part. So overall, I would say that the environments, while not bad, they're not great. They're just right. They kind of meet the bare minimum standard, I guess you can say. And the atmosphere is a very horror feeling atmosphere. It's nothing to write home about, but it does its job. And now I want to move on to the negative aspects of the demo, and this is just my bias aside. This is just from what I've played, the things that I just don't like about the demo, and what I had noticed that could potentially be an issue for the full product. So when playing the demo with the PlayStation VR headset, what you'll notice is that you can turn your head in any direction, and that basically equates to your 180 degree turn, at least for viewing things. However, you have a manual turn that is calibrated to 30 to 60 degrees in this particular build of the demo, and that was something that I found as a flaw. The reason why I feel as though this was flawed is because it just felt very slow to turn from left to right, and it also gave a very awkward feel when turning from left to right at 30 degrees. Now, I'm not sure how much of a significant difference there is switching from 30 to 60, but in my personal opinion, I think it would have been best to have the option to switch between 30, 60, and 180 degree turns. Lastly, I just want to clarify before I move on to the next point is that this only impacts the VR aspect of the game, not when you're playing the game with a controller and just looking at a monitor. So now that that's out of the way, I think it's best to move on to the next point, and that's to talk about the scare factor that the Resident Evil 7 Lantern demo has. I'm gonna be completely honest with you guys. When I was playing this demo, I really didn't feel scared. I pretty much felt the same way when I was playing the beginning hour demo that was originally exclusive to PlayStation Plus subscribers. Yes, I did mention that I became a little bit jumpy when I heard some sounds in the demo, and I will also admit that I did jump when I died, which on a side note, I did die only one time during my playthrough, but I digress. This was mostly due to the fact that I was caught by surprise, not because I had felt scared. I would personally consider this demo very predictable, because all you had to do was just run and hide. And there was no sense of urgency to escape because you know you're an unarmed character and all you have to do is just hide for a little bit and the monster should go away from the room that you're hiding in. That's all you need to do. That's the only objective you have. And since this only applies to this specific demo, it makes the gameplay very uninteresting, nor is it something that I would consider scary because it's been overdone within the first-person horror genre. With that tidbit out of the way, I want to transition to the final negative point that I have about the Resident Evil 7 demo, and that is the length of the demo itself. During the event, ambassadors such as myself were told that the demo was about 11 minutes long, which is understandable given the fact that it's a demo, but I honestly felt as though it was shorter than that, and I was rather puzzled when I completed it because I tried to take as much time as I possibly could with that demo. What I mean by that is I took the time to try to look around the Resident Evil engine in VR, just looking at the environment and trying to take a look at all the details, so I thought I would have been taking up a little bit too much time, but when I completed it, it just didn't feel like I had been playing for 11 minutes. It only really felt like I had been playing for maybe about 4 or 5 minutes at best. Honestly, I feel as though I had unintentionally sped through that demo, and it was probably because it was just a demo, and it was, like I said, a little bit predictable, so I kind of knew what I had to do, but at the end of the day, I think what's more important is that if the full game is like this, where you can just speed through everything so easily and not even feel as though you had done it until you've completed something, then that could potentially be a problem. It could potentially make the game feel so much smaller and so much shorter than what it really is. With all that said, I do feel as though the Lantern demo was about as unimpressive to play as it is to watch. Now keep in mind this is all based on what I had played, this is not my overall opinion on the game, as I do want to keep my personal bias aside when giving you my thoughts on the Resident Evil 7 demo. Now that all my thoughts about the demo are out of the way, for the rest of the video I want to focus on talking about the PlayStation VR, and then afterwards I want to wrap up the video by talking about the trip and the event. Since I only got to play one game with the PlayStation VR, that being Resident Evil 7, I can't really say that the $400 investment is worth it at this point in time. However, I will say that I really liked using the headset so far. Now, using the headset itself feels very natural, and it's very comfortable to just move your head around and look up, down, left and right, leaning forward and whatnot. It's a very comfortable headset to use, and it, like I said before, it just feels very natural. So it's something that I actually really liked about the PlayStation VR headset. The headset itself is actually very light. It looks a lot smaller in person. In pictures, it just kind of looks very bulky and whatnot. It doesn't really look like that in person. It's still kind of bulky, but not as much as pictures would make it out to be. With that said, I hope I can get the chance to play more games using the PlayStation VR headset, so that way I can make a judgment on whether or not the PlayStation VR is worth picking up at the $400 price point. But for now, I really like what I got to experience so far with the headset. Now I'd like to conclude this video by talking about the trip and the event overall. So I had a great time at the trip. I had the pleasure of meeting new faces as well as familiar faces from Capcom, and everyone that I had met was very friendly. We had a great time talking about Resident Evil related topics, and we also had a great time talking about Capcom related topics, so it was a great experience overall, and maybe one day I can meet all of the ambassadors again for a similar trip like this. Maybe it's not specifically for Resident Evil event, maybe it's something like E3 or something. I don't know. I think it'd be pretty cool just to kind of gather up with other gamers and go to gaming events just like this one. It was a lot of fun, and I hope I can do it again. It was my first trip on my own, and it was my first time going to San Francisco. I really wish I had a little bit more time to stay so that way I could explore what San Francisco had to offer as far as tourist attractions are concerned. I didn't really get the chance to do that, but I did get to see a lot of San Francisco, so that was pretty nice. So maybe next time I'll get to do stuff like that, but for now, I really just had a very limited experience when it comes to what San Francisco has to offer. The Resident Evil Tour event was pretty fun too. There was various things to buy like t-shirts, hoodies, and etc. I actually picked up an awesome Resident Evil 1 t-shirt. It has the Resident Evil 1 PS1 zombie on there. It's pretty cool. They also had posters there too for like Resident Evil 7, and they also had a Resident Evil 20th anniversary poster, which originally they weren't even going to give us, but until we started asking about it, they were kind enough to actually hand it over. So I'm pretty happy that I actually managed to grab one of those because it was something that I just couldn't pass up. I mean, I like just having all the characters on like this really cool looking poster, and Nemesis is on there, and Jill and Wesker and Leon and all those great characters. So it was just something I couldn't pass up, and I'm glad I was able to grab that. There was also a raffle giveaway alongside a Mercenaries tournament where you could win RE4, 5, and 6. Unfortunately, I did not get to take part in the Mercenaries tournament. Otherwise, I would have, and I would have tried to have won RE4 at least. But unfortunately, the line was very long, and I just didn't really want to wait in line just to play. I don't even think everybody got the chance to play at the event, which is kind of unfortunate. But that said, I think that's everything I have to talk about. And before I conclude this video, I'd like to say thank you to Capcom for sending me out to San Francisco to play Resident Evil 7. I hope that my negative opinions on the demo itself doesn't bar me from ever coming to any events that you may host in the future. I hope that, it's really only just taken as criticism to help improve the game. But that said, I had a lot of fun, and I hope I can do it again in the future. So thank you once again for having me over there. Anyways, for those of you that have been watching this video for however long this video is, I hope you all enjoyed the video, and until next time, you can follow me on Google+, Twitter, and on Twitch, and I'll see you guys on the next one.